All right, let's get this puppy rolling.
Yeah, let's get it rolling. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode 34 of the GGG Podcast. As always, I am joined by my co-host Phil. I myself am Paul, and we got a great show for you today. We got some news, we got some leaks, we got a new Assassin's Creed controversy to talk about today. Maybe, I don't know. So I'm really excited to get into it. But before we do, Phil, how's your week been? And have you had an opportunity to play some games? Any recent releases, anything like that?
A busy week, but I have managed to put some more time into Hades 2. I found my favorite weapon. I made it to several different domains in the Hades 2 lore.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoy some of the other bosses that I fought, and at some point I hope to come back and talk about those. All of this talk about ninjas and samurai did get me a little hungry to play some Ghost of Tsushima, and I've been playing that. And it makes me wonder, what are we doing here with another Assassin's Creed? And then today I played a little bit of Senua Saga Hellblade 2, and I'm ready to talk about that in a minute.
Right on.
What about you, Paul? What have you been playing?
Okay. I've been playing quite a bit of Stardew Valley with my girlfriend, and then also getting back into Valheim because of the Ashlands update that officially released last week. So been exploring that, been getting access to new things, which has been very exciting. And then still playing Marvel's Midnight Suns, trying to get through the DLC. I finally made it to Storm. So which is the character that I wanted to get to. Like, no offense to Venom and Morbius and whatnot, but Storm is the character that I wanted to get on my team.
She seems like she's the most powerful out of those characters.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So yeah, I've been playing that. Been still playing some Helldivers and booted up Starfield because of the update. And I have to say that the game feels better than it was. It runs better. There's maps in the game. Crazy. It's a new feature.
Really cutting edge over here. But
yeah, really cutting edge. And so I actually played it for a bit. And the sad thing is about that, and I won't go down my Starfield rabbit hole, but the sad thing is like, I feel like this last May update is how the game should have launched. This is, and so now, I feel like they're ready to actually add things to the game, like vehicles and stuff like that. And the game should have launched in this state where it runs okay, and there's maps in the game, and there's settings you can change. And when you walk up to a shake in a bar, you can actually press a button and you can drink it. It's crazy, features that, Red Dead Redemption seemed to have figured out way long ago. But
Paul,
anyway,
I gotta say, you've given that game so many chances. I'm very impressed.
Yeah, it's honestly because one, it's I love space games. I love RPGs, and so I want the game to be good. It's not great, but I want space. I love space.
Every little step, we'll take it.
So I've been playing a variety of things. I've had some good amount of time this week to just chill. So yeah, but that's pretty much been it. But I want to get back to what you've been playing this week. You talked about one of our major game releases this week, which is it Senua's Saga? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, that's yes, Senua.
Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2. I believe it came out today, the day that we are recording this. And I know that the first Hellblade was held in such high regard. And I was actually thinking about, because I own the first Hellblade, but I've never played it. So I was thinking about streaming it on Twitch this week since Hellblade 2's coming out. But I'm interested to hear your thoughts, your first hands-on impression of Hellblade 2.
Well, I am also someone who's never played Senua or Hellblade 1. And I was impressed that they immediately had this happened in the last game, kind of break it down for you, give you the major events. Um, but one of the things that I find is very interesting about it is it's really beautiful.
Mhm.
It's definitely like stark and dire in terms of like the landscape and what you're seeing and like all the blood. It's very, it's a dark game for sure,
Right.
but uh, it looks great. And the storytelling is really really well done, as well as like the sound design. They do a lot of like they tell you when you play the game to put on headphones
Mhm.
because Senua hears like voices seemingly,
Okay.
and those are replicated by like playing in one ear or the other, and you're hearing like suggestions and things to do from these versions of Senua's or someone else's voice. And it creates this really interesting thing where I'm like, oh, did I hear that person crying for help in real life, or is that Senua's brain trying to trick me to go over there?
Mm.
Um, and it's a really fun thing. Also, yeah, so I'm excited to play more. I really only played the first hour, so I have seen some of the reviews that say it starts off really really strong. So I'm excited to really dig in and play the rest of it. I don't think I will go back and play Hellblade 1
Mhm.
at least until I finish Hellblade 2 because I kind of want to see what that experience is like as someone who hasn't played Hellblade 1.
Sure.
Uh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm super curious about it. I mean, one thing I took away from just the media that I've seen on the first game uh is I mean just the cinematography, how cinematic the entire experience is. The graphics look absolutely incredible. And I something that like the thing that made me think, oh, maybe I should Twitch stream this game is that it's a very linear game, and it does like it's not, from what I've heard about it, it's not a very long campaign because of how linear it is. And so
Mhm.
it's like, oh, okay, is this something I could bust out in like a weekend or something like that? So yeah, but I'm very curious about Hellblade 2, and I think it's probably going to be influenced by me playing Hellblade 1 and seeing if I
Yeah.
enjoy it or not. So
I believe at least Hellblade 2 is for sure available on Day Pass or Game Pass. It was day one. Probably Hellblade 1, I would say. Hopefully, Game Pass.
yeah, probably. I picked it up on a Steam sale, I think,
Mm,
way back, and I just never played it, as you know, Steam sales tend to do.
that's that's how they happen. Yeah.
All right, but let's get into our next major game release of this week, and that is X Defiant. So we've known about this game for quite some time, and for those people who haven't heard about X Defiant before, it is a free-to-play Ubisoft first-person shooter, multiplayer competitive first-person shooter, and it's kind of, I don't want to upset any COD fans here, but it's kind of like COD a little bit, as far as like the time to kill and like the being like a Twitch shooter. But I would say it's a little bit more reliant on like classes and gadgets. Of course, again, I know COD fans out there are going to be like, well, there are classes and gadgets, you know, but this is more spelled out. So you know, it looks interesting. I The last free to play shooter I got into was the finals, you know, which we both played and you introduced me
Mm.
to. So which I really enjoyed. I don't know if this is necessarily up my alley, but I might give it a try. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the finals is a pretty great comparison just because like that game when you play it looks unlike anything you've ever played before. 'Cause it's
Hmm.
like, oh, what is this wild, wild game? It's like a game show. There's really destructible environments, silly guns.
Right.
This looks almost exactly like COD,
Hmm.
and that's a pretty interesting dynamic, especially to bring to a free to play game.
Hmm.
Because COD has been so popular that it makes sense that someone would be like, okay, well, if we can give it to people for free, at least we can get them in the ecosystem.
Well, I mean,
Uh,
you have Warzone, which is free,
True,
but it's not
but
obviously the same
yeah,
style. Yeah.
that that's like a battle royale where this seems to be like old school multiplayer COD with like objectives and
Yeah.
team deathmatch and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
The thing that is most interesting to me about it is weirdly enough bringing like all the Ubisoft lore. Like, sadly, this is the best chance that we have for Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell to come back, because you have the third echelon as a group of people you can play.
Hmm.
You have DedSec, who's like the hackers from Watch Dogs.
Yeah.
You have some characters from Far Cry. All this stuff. It's cool to see them all together and like, okay, well, can the DedSec people like do special stuff with their cell phone and like bring up walls or interact with the environment? That's great. Can the
Hmm.
echelon, our third echelon folks, do stealth spy stuff? Would be really cool.
Hmm.
If all of those things are in the game, you have my attention more so, even though I don't really care about this type of game. I feel like for games like this, as long as I can convince a couple of friends to play it, that is the metric for whether or not I will play it. And
Sure.
the fact that it's free is good. And the fact that it has some IP that your friends might be like, oh, yeah, I know those guys from this game. I like that game.
Yeah, it is interesting seeing all these companies kind of do like their multiverse type things where it's like these are our other franchises that we're bringing into this game. And I mean it's a pretty common trend now at this point. So it's interesting. I might check it out. I think I'm curious as to whether I have to install this through Ubisoft Connect.
Man.
Or if it's actually, I don't know if it's available on Steam. Would you mind checking that real quick, Phil, if it is available on
Yeah.
Steam?
I was also going to see, is it available on consoles?
That is a good question. I'll check that one. But as we're checking that out, let's get into our first news topic today, and that is that we got a very exciting trailer for all those Elden Ring players out there, all those Dark Soulites, if that's what they're called. I don't know if they have a I don't know how to identify you.
They're called Dark Souls.
Dark
No,
Souls.
that's
Oh
not.
yes. uh,
XDefiant not available on Steam.
Interesting. Interesting. I also know for people who are interested in the game that it has been having some server issues. So
Mm,
XDefiant is available on PSN for free. So that is interesting.
okay.
So it must be exclusive on Ubisoft Connect on PC, which I'm sure will enrage some people. But anyway, getting on with our Elden Ring story. So we got our first our story trailer for the Elden Ring DLC. I hope I'm saying this right. The ErdTree. And I'll be honest, I have no idea what's going on in this trailer at all. It's very elusive and mystical and mysterious and cryptic, as so many things in Elden Ring are. And so it's kind of sticking with that vibe. So I'm sure, like, I know Elden Ring, it came out in 2022 now. Was that the year it one game of the year? Yeah.
Did it? Yeah, I think so.
I
Yeah.
believe, yeah, I believe it was 2022. So I'm excited that it's 2024. We're finally getting some DLC for all those Dark Souls out there. So yeah, but personally, probably not going to be picking it up myself. Not for me.
I definitely will pick it up at some point. I think though that the trailer is essentially, and please don't come at me, from Soft and Dark Souls fans.
Man, we angering
Point.
all the fanboys today.
Yeah, this trailer is pointless. There's no story to Elden Ring. There's no story to a Dark Souls game. If you think so, you're lying to yourself. They have just put a bunch of vague consonants together and occasionally form words. This is the same as those tiles that make up like ransom notes on your fridge this game. It's a Mad Libs for darkness, nights, blood, whatever. It's nonsense. You just go there and kill monsters. The big enemy on the box cover of this game looks like a crazy, creepy uterus. I am so in, but my God, don't show me anything more about this game. Just let me play it.
Oh my God! Wow, dropping truths. I think I'm gonna clip that and make some people angry.
Clip that. Yeah, let's get them. It's all comes from just because you're too stupid to know. No, I like good storytelling. I don't like, hey, there's a letter over here that affects something that's going to happen 30 years later in the game.
Yeah, how is that relevant to what's going on right now? Yeah, I agree. There really is not any story, and It's not, there's not a story in a way that the game actually presents in a reasonable manner. And that doesn't mean that the game isn't good, but it just means that it's not a story game. It's just not.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, Pokemon doesn't have a story. I love Pokemon games.
yeah,
Just 'cause none of the things that happen are connected. I'm just going to hit other people's Pokemon with my Pokemon, and that's fun. That's great for Elden Ring too.
I love Pal World. There's absolutely no story in Pal World. Absolutely none. So speaking of, well, I guess that's not true because there is some story in Fortnite with the seasons, but we got some Fortnite news.
More than Elden Ring.
Yes, they're doing an Elden Ring crossover. It's
There's
the
a
merging
tie-in
of the
comic
markets.
book. Oh God, no! Unless I can buy a Let Me Solo Her skin, in which case I will buy it.
Yes. So I believe this was actually a leak. So the next Fortnite season, a trailer was leaked, and people figured out that they're going to be doing a Fallout crossover, which is pretty interesting. You know, I could see some like T60s in Fortnite. I think that would be pretty cool. You know, but I have to say, like, I really gotta. I'm sure that the Fortnite team is a well-oiled, gigantic machine, but man, do they pump out the content constantly. Like,
oh yeah,
like I feel like Fallout was just trending from the show in April, and they're like, "Yeah, we're ready working on it, and we're gonna pump it out." You know. Meanwhile,
well,
we have these game companies taking decades to make games now.
it's crazy that the Fallout, like an actual Fallout game, hasn't come out in what 6-8 years since Fallout 4.
Mm-hmm.
But we have a Magic the Gathering tie-in, we have a TV show, we have a Fortnite tie-in.
Yeah.
What I'm wondering is like what was gonna happen at this point that they were trying to capitalize on. Do you know what I mean? Like, obviously the TV show has built a lot of goodwill. But whenever a good example, and this is just like some of my nerd
go
interests coalescing. Magic the Gathering had a Baldur's Gate set that came out in when did Baldur's Gate come out? 2023. I think the set came out in 2022. So they started working on the set when they were ready to release the game in 2022. They decided they need more time, so they released it in 2023. But these big companies, like, they have to plan so far out in advance, usually with the release of something. Another good example is McDonald's right now. They have their, like, it's a strange one. Their Happy Meal toy is Captain America, Brave New World, which is the Anthony Mackie Captain America. It's got
is that when does that come out though? Like, don't
that comes out next year, but initially it was supposed to come out this year.
So they have the toys now.
Yes, because things are so tightly like locked in with that type of big marketing push,
right,
that they can't move it.
Mm-hmm.
So what was supposed to what was Fallout trying to announce or release now, or is this just like the weirdest confluence of events ever?
So there's still a lot of speculation about this because it was leaked, but it seems like it might be a couple different things where it's like it seems like a desert theme. So it could also be a tie-in to Mad Max Furiosa as well. So I think Fallout will be part of it. And I think, yeah, they were counting on the show having some, or they literally just planned this, because I feel like Fortnite is like, we are staying on what is hip right now, and they're very good at doing that. And so, they could have just called Bethesda up and been like, hey, you guys want to do a collab? We've collabed with literally everyone else who works in video games. So
I mean, it is possible that the folks over at Epic do know how to, because of the Unreal Engine and all that stuff, they know how to just turn around like, all right, here's some new game mechanics. Here you go. We'll throw it in.
Yeah. And I think when you get to the point that Fortnite is at, where you have so many different assets with an engine that you own, all of your systems are written in-house. You can pump out assets. Like how long would it really take a designer to make a T60 armor that would work in Fortnite? Probably not that long,
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. But interesting. I'm curious to see when the full details like come out for this season. This is chapter 5, season 3 that we are talking about. So yeah, be excited if you are a Fortnite fan. Yay!
Please be excited.
Please be excited.
Like a Japanese game developer, please be excited for our.
Please.
Speaking of another reason to be excited, it looks like Valve is making games again.
What? Lies and
Don't
slander.
worry, it's not any of the ones that you want. Their new video game Deadlock leaked, and it's a hero shooter. That's fun, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, they looked around at the market and they were like, "There's not a lot of hero shooters. We need another one." So
Blammo,
yeah,
let's go.
Blammo, let's go. So yeah, apparently there are people who are testing Valve's new game, which is Deadlock, and they've released several images for Deadlock, and from what we know so far, it is a hero shooter, but it is also a MOBA. Excuse me, I have something in my throat. But it's also a MOBA, and so it's for people who aren't familiar with MOBAs, it's a lane pusher game. And yeah, so it's kind of like Smite. I should say Smite would probably be the closest thing to compare it to. Some people online have been comparing it to Overwatch. I think that's primarily from like one of the images that was leaked showed one of the characters, and the character did kind of look a little bit like a Hanzo,
Overwatchy,
little Hanzo knockoff, a little bit. So yeah, and but I think, I don't know, it's fine. I'm not a big. Did you ever play Smite? What do you know? Never played. What about any kind of MOBAs?
What have I played? There was one that was, I think, Epic made, that was like a third person
Paragon
hero. Paragon. I played a little bit of Paragon.
Yeah.
But I've played, like, there is a Pokemon MOBA that you can play on your phone. But outside of that, I think I've realized that MOBAs are just not for me. If I want to play a sport video game, like a video game that is a sport type thing, I'll play either a fighting game or Rocket League.
Sure.
But having to, like, okay, I'm doing this one particular job that I do, doesn't interest me that well.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's I'm curious to know like how popular MOBAs are with the younger audience, because I feel like MOBAs are more popular with older audiences, people who play Dota 2, people who play League of Legends. The MOBA that I've played the most is Heroes of the Storm, which is Blizzard's MOBA. And the reason that I've played that one so much and I advocate for it, not so much anymore because it's not really supported anymore, but I've advocated for that one because it sped things up. Whereas like a usual MOBA match is going to be an hour 15. And Heroes of the Storm, it's like a usual match is like 20 minutes. So like I'm more down to play a MOBA, and lose in 20 minutes than playing this thing for an hour and 15 minutes and like have the beginning. And this isn't a criticism of Deadlock or League or Dota. It's just a criticism of the format of MOBAs in general. But it's just like when you have the first 45 minutes of the match where it's just about like soaking XP and buying items and stuff like that. It's just kind of like, I just want to get to the end of the match where the actual fun stuff happens. So
where the thing happens.
Yeah. so
I think there's something interesting about like they found the loop of like, okay, people like advancement for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And people like sort of like buying things. And I feel like MOBAs kind of tie into that. It's a strange, like, the dopamine loop that they go for. But yeah. Sorry, you were saying.
No. I was pretty much done with my thought. I was going to ask you, like, why do you think Valve is working on a character shooter MOBA right now? Do you think it's just one of their pet projects, or like, do you think this is a project that's actually going to see the light of day?
I think it's got to be a pet project. It seems like something they're moving forward with if they're having this many people do like a test for it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think that this does seem like something they want to do, because Valve doesn't have to make games
Yeah.
anymore. They own Steam. They have an infinite money machine.
Yeah.
Um, why it's this, I don't get it, because like Dota 2 is obviously Valve's, and it is a huge game, whatever. Uh, I don't know why they are sticking with MOBAs specifically. They're like, this is another form of a MOBA. I don't quite get it.
Maybe they feel it's their genre, I guess.
Ugh.
But I mean, which it kind of feels a little silly because the original Dota like was really a Warcraft mod, which was from Blizzard. So,
Yeah,
so that's interesting. But as new stuff comes out about Deadlock, we'll continue to talk about it and see if it's a real game that is actually going to come out. So yeah, but I am very excited about this next announcement. But I think you are probably also a little excited about it, Phil. So please take this one away.
I sure am. Hey, may the fourth be with you, because Total War Star Wars is in development.
Hmm.
Uh, that is a pretty crazy sentence. Total War is a fun series of games. I remember playing the original Total War Shogun like way back in the day.
Mm.
And they have come out with almost sort of every single historical derivation of Total War that you can think of, in addition to Warhammer. Uh, I guess like original Warhammer, not Warhammer 40K. Maybe they have a Warhammer. Anyway, Warhammer Total War, which is like a more fantasy, ridiculous, like rat people versus like snake gods.
Yeah.
Um, and it is gorgeous. These games are like beautiful to look at. They have a lot of really fine textured detail. You can go in and see individual fights happening. But now they are doing a Star Wars game. How does that pan out? I'm not sure. Paul, what are your thoughts on this?
I am very excited, but also very worried
Mm-hmm.
because, like, the thing about all the Total War games is that most of the combat is is melee combat, and like, or you'll get archers, and obviously, like you said, in the fantasy Total Wars, you'll get magic and all this other stuff, but honestly, when I'm looking at, and I know Total War is like an RTS on the biggest scale you can have, but when I'm looking at an RTS of like shooters that actually do justice to like, oh, this is shooting gameplay in an RTS as opposed to melee combat. It's like I look at games like Company of Heroes, I look at games like Dawn of War, where you actually have like soldiers and characters like taking cover, getting behind things. And so I don't know how they're really going to do that, like with stormtroopers, with clone troopers. Are they just going to stand in lines like they're, on a hill in France in the 1600s? Like, I don't know what the what the gameplay is going to look like. So, but I'm super excited because, like, I've been craving an RTS. I love Star Wars, but I really don't know what to expect out of this. So, and we don't know what to expect out of it either because it's pretty early in development. They started working on it in October of last year, and I believe it was a pivot from a Sega game. It was a shooter game, multiplayer shooter game called Hyenas. They heard that XDefiant was coming out. They're like, we can't compete with that. So
We got to get off first person shooters.
so yeah, I'm excited, but I think the bigger thing that I'm excited about is now that it seems like the Star Wars license is going to multiple studios, and Disney isn't being too hoity-toity about, oh well, we only want the biggest, most successful studios doing our game. And I feel like that's what you need to do, because you need to give other people a chance with the license and not just anyway. So
Yeah.
I'm happy it's coming out. I really don't know what to expect though.
Yeah, I'm guessing like you're gonna have I feel like there's so many cool space battles in Total War that has to be some sort of component,
Hmm.
or if you're not gonna get like crazy big troops that you can use, maybe you'll have like an AT-AT Walker or the Millennium Falcon do like flybys or something.
Yeah.
The possibilities are kind of limitless, but that's what makes me nervous, that there are so many ways that this could like be missing something that I think it would kind of really badly need.
Absolutely. I also kind of fear, as with all Total War games, that there will be an unlimited amount of DLCs that are going to come out, where it's going to be like, this is the Wookiee character pack, and so
Yeah.
you can play as the Wookiees now, or this is the Gungan pack, your leader is Jar Jar Binks, like that kind of, which like
This is the Dexter Jetster pack.
I don't know what that
if
is.
you want, it's from episode 2. He has a space diner on Coruscant that Obi-Wan goes to.
Yeah. The guy with 4 arms. Yeah.
This is the Kit Fisto pack.
Yeah.
Actual guy's name from Star Wars.
Yeah, but excited. Very cool. All right, let's see what we got next. So we got Nintendo has just bought a studio, which is very uncharacteristic of Nintendo. Not really a studio buyer, not like Sony, and certainly not like Microsoft. But they bought a studio that is a port studio. They port games. They ported Hogwarts Legacy to the Switch most recently, and they're actually out of Miami, so it's an American company, which is also interesting. And GameSpot, where this is coming from, they seem to think that this is because the Switch 2 is probably coming out next year, and they want to kind of beef up the console release, the launch titles, so that
it's the portfolio games.
The portfolio. The portfolio. So they're probably going to be trying to get some current next gen games that are popular on Xbox, PlayStation, PC, and be porting them over to the Switch 2. So that's interesting. We're finally seeing some movement from Nintendo, getting back into the ring, so that's good. But yeah, is there a game, I guess, that has come out semi-recently that you think could be ported to a Switch 2 and that you would actually like to play on a Switch?
Yes. I feel like everyone's answer is probably like Baldur's Gate 3 would be fun to play on the go. You get a real strong port studio on that, because people could play it on Steam Deck, but apparently it's kind of rough. My answer specifically, Hi-Fi Rush. Give Tango Works their due, baby. Let's get it out there, get it away from those Xbox bedeviled hands of Phil Spencer, and put it into Mario's soft white gloves.
Yeah, that sounds. Hi-Fi Rush sounds awesome.
What about you? What do you got?
I'm looking around my room for inspiration. Back to real quick with the Total War thing. I want Lord of the Rings Total War. Make that happen.
When I was looking back through their series of games, I was like, there hasn't been a Total War Lord of the Rings.
I mean,
that would be perfect.
There was a Lord of the Rings RTS.
So
and a number of them, but I think they were owned by EA. And so I love those games, but I don't see them coming back. Although Warner Brothers has begun distributing the Lord of the Rings game license. So as of last week. Anyway, back to Nintendo. Some games I'd love to see ported. I think I agree Baldur's Gate would be great. I feel like you could get some racing games in there. I feel like racing games are a kind of game that I like playing more mobile, more on the go, like The Crew, or I don't know if you can sweet talk Microsoft into some Forza or something like that, or sweet talk Sony into some Gran Turismo. Maybe be like, are you sure you want to make the Zelda movie, Sony? Well, give us Gran Turismo on Switch 2. Some of that.
Give us The Last of Us on Switch 2.
Nah, I don't know about that.
So your children can play the saddest game of all time.
But those are my ideas off the top of my head,
not a bad set of games.
Yes, indeed. Quite. All right. Moving right along.
Okay, hold on. Ghost of Tsushima would be really cool. Ghost of Tsushima would be a great Switch game. Just like follow the wind for 15 minutes, kill a camp, and then be like, all right, I got off my bus.
It's
Put
true.
Your Switch away.
I actually have been playing Ghost of Tsushima on my Portal, so that has been awesome.
That's pretty cool.
Yes, I am. Honestly, it works really well. Like it's yeah. I've been playing Helldivers on it as well, so it's like the lag. It's not
Doesn't
yeah,
exist.
there are some things like when I first got my portal, I had to like adjust some of my wireless settings and everything, which like they have like a list of things you can do to improve the connection. And then as soon as I did those things, it just ran beautifully.
Wow.
So yeah, I've been really enjoying that. But okay, all right, moving right along. Multiversus, this game that keeps making its way into our news list, it's been announced that it has been getting it's going to be getting a PvE rifts type mode. So that's interesting, and I think a very smart thing to do. Throw in some PvE. Especially when you're going for a younger market, you gotta have PvE. You know, you don't want to enrage every 12-year-old ever. So it kind of reminds me of the challenge towers, kind of in Mortal Kombat, where it's like it's not always the same thing. It's like this is a mini game. You know, get Morty through this maze of lasers, like that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Pretty simple story here, but any thoughts, Phil?
Happy it's coming back. I kind of had my doubts that Multiversus would see the light of day again.
Mm-hmm.
But they're launching May 27th, so very soon.
Yeah, next week.
Excited for there to be a roast mode, because I did feel like that was lacking. Like you would kind of just like wait to be matched up, play a match. That was fun. Want to do it again. Want to like work on your skills. But sometimes you get matched up with somebody who doesn't let you work on your skills. They're just too good. So you kind of like, well, guess I'm not playing as Wonder Woman. But I'm excited to see it come back. Apparently they have better net code, so there should hopefully be less lag, and a couple new characters. They're gonna have the Joker. They're gonna have
Agent
Friday
Smith,
the 13th guy, and Agent Smith.
Yes.
Jason Voorhees. Jason Voorhees.
Yeah, you know, Friday the 13th guy.
Ultimately, I hope that means we get like a cool Neo. So that have like some Agent Smith Neo battles would be great. But really cool to see them flex their IP a little bit more and grab some other like interesting things. Like I wouldn't have thought Jason Voorhees would have fit in this game, but he really does. So,
well, I mean, if you cartoonify him enough,
yeah.
Yeah. I'm honestly the most curious thing about this game for me is to see how next week's launch goes. Because I think, like we were talking about last week, where early access, you know, because we were talking about it with Hades 2, early access is kind of an industry standard now. And I think that this is an interesting approach where they came out, we're like, hey, this is an early access game, but then we're going to take it away. And we're going to take it away and we're going to work on it in a way that we couldn't just keep updating it, where it's like, we redid the netcode. We updated the engine. It's a new engine in there. And, you know, we're adding, you know, all of these things you guys complained about. We're adding more content. And so it's going to be like a revamped game. And it kind of, for me, like, I really don't want to pat Warner Brothers on the back because nothing's happened yet. But I kind of like the idea where it actually felt like early access, where it's like, hey, we need people's input. And they got it. And they're like, great. Now that we got your input, we're going to go and we're going to work on it. And we're going to come back and you're going to see, instead of like I'm really excited about playing Valheim right now because of the update. But like that game is still technically in early access. So, I mean, I kind of sort of maybe, you know, but it's like I've been waiting for these updates forever. So I'm curious to see it when it launches. Will it actually be a full game, and what will people think of it? So very curious.
I will say I'm actually excited for it to come back. I kind of got to miss it a little bit.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, take notes, Marvel. They have. It's just Deadpool coming out this year. So.
See, no Captain America. They pushed it.
Yes. Yeah.
So that we also have one last story before we get to our main topic, which is the Sand gameplay reveal. I think about a month ago, a couple weeks, Sand released a trailer. It was like a thematic story trailer, which kind of introduced this Indiana Jones vibe aesthetic with like this steampunk thing. You're basically in these big walkers walking through a desert, and they're sort of like ships. And like I think the cinematic trailer, like you're on one of those that belong to someone else. You're looking for treasure or whatever. But seeing some gameplay, this game looks like Sea of Thieves but steampunk with robots, and I'm pretty dang in.
And sand. You're forgetting the sand.
I forgot about the sand because I hate sand. It's it's grainy and it gets everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's a neat idea. It's like, obviously, I think there's definitely a market for that Sea of Thieves. Like, get a group of friends together, and like the how it looks, it really looks interesting in that you kind of have, it's like a steampunk Howl's Moving Castle type vibe, but then of course you're fighting other people who are on their own little mechanical walking fortresses across sand dunes and everything. So I don't know. I'm really curious to see how it works. We got our first gameplay trailer today. I think the gameplay did look a little rough. So I'm curious to see how that improves. But I think it's also kind of been proven right now, like games, as we were just talking about, can release in early access. And if they're coming from indie developers, people's expectations are not going to be that high. So
Exactly.
if this is a, successful formula, I think, they have some legs here, and I think it could be a little fan favorite. So
Legs like a sand walker.
yes, like a sandwalker. I was thinking about doing that, and I held myself
Yeah.
back, and then you pushed
Well,
me. Yeah, pushed me over.
your restraint is my opportunity to say some whack stuff.
Perfect.
Yeah, no, it looks really, really, like you said, a little rough, but also very fun. I'm interested to give it a shot. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
cool concept. I think just in general, the fact that we kind of just gaming as a whole knows the difference between like indie games and being like, oh, okay, it's an indie game,
Mhm.
is one of the greatest like magic tricks that the video game industry has pulled,
Mhm.
and I'm happy to see it.
All right. Well, good. So let's get into our main topic. I've been dying to talk about this, honestly, and I know you have a lot of thoughts on it. Do you want to? Let's Phil. Why don't you get it started? Let's get in here.
Yeah. So last week on our show, we knew that Assassin's Creed Shadow was about to be revealed just after we recorded because that's how the news goes, of course.
Mhm.
But we saw the full reveal of some cinematic no gameplay trailer for Assassin's Creed Shadows. It's got dual protagonists. I believe it's Yasuke.
I don't think that they're actually using his name. I think
His name. Okay.
that's that's the character he's based on, or
Yeah.
that's the historical figure that he's based on. I don't know if that's actually his name in the game.
I think
It might be though.
no, I think it is Yasuke because it's based off of the historical figure.
Okay, great.
Who is a black samurai,
Mhm.
which has caused a bit of an uproar. Before we get to that, it is an Assassin's Creed game, dual protagonist. The other character, I don't know her name, but she is a shinobi or like more like a ninja,
Mhm.
and Yasuke is more of like a traditional samurai. So they have different ways that they deal with encounters, which is a pretty cool concept that we've not really seen in Assassin's. Like, I feel like they kind of tried to do that for Syndicate, but both of the characters were functionally identical.
Yeah, I feel like Syndicate was more like, we want to have both genders, and that's
Mhm.
kind of like what the other games were too. Just give you the option if you wanted to play a different
Yeah.
gender. So
I think my favorite way they did it was with Assassin's Creed, the second to most recent one,
Valhalla,
where Valhalla,
yeah.
because it would just like your character would just change gender like from scene to scene, like depending on which story was more canonical to
But
the
that didn't
Assassin's
make
Creed
any
universe.
sense, though.
I liked it. Gender's
Oh,
a construct, you know what
all
I
right, all right, all right.
mean?
Keep going, keep going.
But
Sorry.
No. That's pretty much it to wrap up my thoughts on it. Like, obviously, it's Japan, which is what Assassin's Creed fans have been looking forward to.
Yes.
Um, and it's going to be a couple different styles of play. Are they going to stick more with their like RPG heavy stuff, or are they going to lean into that Assassin's Creed Mirage, like more stealth style? We'll figure out as time goes
Well,
on.
I think that's a great place to start, like a more uh, deep discussion of like, could they do both? Where if you're playing as the samurai, it is
Mhm.
what we've seen out of the last couple games, and when you're playing as the ninja, does it play like old school Assassin's Creed, like Mirage? Do they split up the gameplay in that way?
I feel like Ghost of Tsushima did this really well already. Like,
What? Oh,
how can you like the fact that in that game you had the choice to play every situation as like a samurai who would walk up to the front gate and challenge the camp, or play as a shinobi who would sneak around and stab everyone.
hmm.
um that's a little bit of like my trepidation with this game. I will say uh the main difference that I'm like excited about, and I guess this is kind of the main thing that differentiates it from Ghost of Tsushima,
Hmm.
is that the cities in Assassin's Creed games are traditionally really well put together, and we didn't get to see any of that in Ghost of Tsushima. It would be really cool to see like the amount of detail that Ubisoft artists put into an Assassin's Creed game. Specifically, those teams are pretty incredible about it.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Like I know that that's one of the ways that Ubisoft generates revenue is they have a whole team that's like, we are going to recreate this ancient city. And so and in Ghost of Tsushima you didn't really get that because the area that they were on Tsushima and Iki Island, like those are not or were not heavily populated areas with big cities. So you didn't get that at a Ghost. So I think that you make a great point there, and that's a way it can differentiate itself from Ghost. But the whole samurai and ninja thing is kind of like, yeah, I played this game already, guys. You missed the boat. Like you waited
Yeah.
and you waited and you waited, and then a game came out, and now you're like, oh, the people seem to like that. Let's do that. So, like, yeah, I'm curious about it. Like, and just to touch on or to kind of get into the controversy, like with the Black Samurai with Yasuke, like I I don't know, Phil. Do you care? Like, I don't care. Like, this is Assassin's Creed. I think
Yeah.
I was thinking about this today, and like after Assassin's Creed 3, when they essentially were just like, we're just gonna go off the rails with the story. The Assassin's Creed after Assassin's Creed 3 was just like, this is ancient aliens,
Mhm.
and like there and I feel like there's like the gods trilogy, like the Egyptian gods, the Greek gods, the
Mhm.
Norse gods.
Norse
It's
gods.
the gods trilogy. That's what they did with the Assassin's Creed series, and they did that to the gameplay as well. And in DLC, we're like, oh, you have all these magical powers and everything, and I think
Mhm.
like that's fine, but I think Assassin's Creed nowadays feels more like the DC universe than it
Mm.
does like a historical fiction. Um,
Yeah.
and so, like, for me to come in and be like, oh, well, I don't know that if I like, this specific character choice. It's like, it's Assassin's Creed. They're not,
Yeah.
it's ancient aliens. Like, what are we talking about, guys? This is not, there's a difference between like realism and naturalism, and this is naturalism. And it's at some points it's not even naturalism. It's DC. It's DC Comics. That's what it is. And so to hold them accountable and be like, well, why isn't it a Japanese samurai? Why did they choose to do this? It's like they chose to do it because you're talking about it. That's why they chose to
Yeah.
do it, because it would be a point to talk about and dispute on the internet. But that's my opinion. So
Well, okay. Well, I agree with everything you said, because like ever since they introduced the apple of Eden that could control people, it's been, there those who came before. It's ancient aliens 100%.
yeah.
Um Similarly, okay, the main Shinobi character her name is Noe,
Okay.
like Noe, just so I remember that.
Hmm.
Um, I don't give a single flying turd about anyone who gets upset about it being a Yasuke game, because Yasuke is an interesting historical character who actually exists.
Yeah.
Were people upset that we like hung out with the guy who made the flying ritual? I can't think of his name. Uh,
Leonardo or Da Vinci.
Leonardo da Vinci in Assassin's Creed
Yeah,
2.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, let's do what would of course not, because he was an interesting character. He was like a tent pole for us to be like interested in. Similar, Yasuke, just as a character, went from this journey of being a Welsh slave to being one of Nobunaga's like retainers and advisors. That's such an interesting journey to see someone who's like outside of that culture coming into it. Not to mention that almost every character from Assassin's Creed has been somewhat of an outsider to their culture.
Hmm.
I
That's
believe
true.
Edward in Assassin's Creed 4 was a Welsh pirate. Uh, I think
I think he was British.
he was British, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't, but he was like not in that culture. There's been several characters that is their whole deal, that they are outsiders to that particular
Yeah,
place.
I mean Assassin's Creed 3, he's a Native
Native
American,
American.
half Native American, half British, and
Mhm.
it's and he's fighting in the American Civil War, and it's like, yeah, okay. It's
Right? Yeah.
but that's Assassin's Creed. It's just it's got a sense of fantasy of like this fantastical, and like what you're saying, it's like this is a real character that they're basing off of in history. I guess my bigger question here is, would you rather get just a Yasuke game by itself that's not associated with Assassin's Creed, or do you think this was the only way it was going to happen?
Um, I think this is the way I think I'd want it to happen,
Okay.
because it's a big enough title that I'm like, I know I'm gonna play Assassin's Creed Shadows. I
Right.
don't know if I would play another Yasuke game. I guess just to the point that there's like no actual Japanese people upset about this, um, is because Naoe is a Japanese born character in the game.
Hmm.
She's one of the protagonists. It is just weird culture war stuff that I like am bummed to see happen, that this is like even an issue,
Right.
because people think that it is woke or whatever. Um if you think it's woke, just shut up. Just shut up. You don't gotta play it. If you gotta play as Naoe the whole time. I bet you that's an option. Or just shut up. It's yeah, sorry. It's very silly. I've been seeing posts and videos about it all week of people being
It's
like,
like, honestly, like this week I knew we were going to talk about Assassin's Creed Shadows this week, but I didn't expect to be talking about people's crazy reactions to it.
right?
I honestly, and this is a little bit shifting the conversation away from the character choices, but it's like, what I'm most concerned about is that it's a good game. I want it to be a
Yeah,
good game. I don't. So like I haven't been crazy about the gameplay in Assassin's Creed for a while. I think Mirage like went back to its roots of like AC1, but I think the thing that Mirage made me realize is that you still have to add new things to the game. You can't
yeah.
just be like, "Hey, we're going to give you the exact same mission structure that you got in AC1," which is just like, bro, that's pretty old. Like, I don't want
This
to. I
Ace
don't.
AC Mirage felt like a reboot of Assassin's Creed One.
It
You're
really
correct
was.
there.
It was a
Yeah,
remake. It really was. And so, like, I hope that in this endeavor of making Assassin's Creed Shadows, they're able to find some new gameplay that can, and this is a tall ask because Assassin's Creed has done so many things, but like that'll add new things, but also take away some of the bull crap that I don't need in Assassin's Creed games. Specifically, I'll give one specific example that annoyed me to no end in Valhalla. And I think Valhalla is a pretty good game, but it's just, first of all, there's too much. There's too much. in Valhalla.
Too
There's
much.
if
Too much in that
you
game.
100%ed Valhalla, like I you are a superhuman, my friend. And yeah, like please comment and tell us why. but but it was too much. And particularly like when I would get annoyed in Valhalla and in other Assassin's Creed games is like, if you give me an open world and you give me a map, and I think this is pretty common among most gamers. Most gamers don't play this way, but I think this is pretty common. If you're in a village in some open world game and your main quest is like, hey, it's 600 meters that way. And then you walk 10 meters and you see another indicator on your map that there's something else 40 meters away from where you are right now. It's a farmer and they have a side quest for you. Are you really going to be like, I'm not going to go talk to that farmer. I'm just going to run the 600 meters to my main quest. It's like you have to pull the side quests back, guys. I understand you want to give a lot of content to the game, but I also had this criticism of Horizon Forbidden West of like, there's too many side quests that the main quest takes a back seat, and the main quest is the more interesting story. And I'm also worried because I don't think Ubisoft has written a story that I've enjoyed in like 10 years. So and like for me, that's what I want out of this game. I want a good story, especially when you're using interesting character, as we were just talking about. So yeah,
I think the last Assassin's Creed game I finished for sure was Origins, and it wasn't necessarily for the story. That had like a pretty strong opening where your son gets murdered by the Templars. And that's like your revenge for the whole game, and like there's a lot of stuff. You meet Cleopatra, hang out, but it still wasn't great.
right.
Similarly, Assassin's Creed 4, the gameplay kept me going more than finishing the story. Like
I agree.
I cared a little bit about Edward, but even still, it was like meh.
It was the ship combat, and
It was just just going onto someone's ship, taking it over, sinking it, and leaving. Feels so cool every time. But yeah, I really hope that they kind of find something new to do with this one. And like you said, like pull back on the side quests, or just like give me the bulk of them late game or after the story so I can like have something else to do. But and I guess this is a weird criticism, but sometimes the side quests are more interesting to me than the main story, and that's a problem when
Yeah.
like I finish a side quest and I'm like, well, I feel like I got what I wanted already. Like,
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Like, especially in Ubisoft, I think it was really noticeable in the Far Cry 6, which is, in my opinion, not a good game. But I think one of the things about Far Cry 6 and in a lot of Ubisoft games is you can kind of see the backstage of what's going on with these games, where it's like, oh, this writer was assigned these side quests and has no idea what the main story is. And it's and a lot of the time, and I feel like the focus is all, we are writing missions, we're not writing an overarching story, we're just writing missions because that's what my Slack is telling me I need to do. And so yeah, I feel like focus on the main story. Or like if we're talking about Ghost of Tsushima, I think Ghost of Tsushima, does kind of, they have a more classic take on side quests. And not that the side quests are amazing in Ghost of Tsushima, they're okay. I'd say they're average. But what it does is it limits you on what areas you can go to. Of like, hey, you have to stay in the southern region first before you until you complete this main story thing, and then after you complete the main story thing, then there's more side quests. But I feel like a lot of Assassin's Creed is like, you can just go and just side quest. And if I'm playing Skyrim, that is kind of what I want to do. But like I want a good story. That's what I'm craving, a good story. That's what I want. So I'm being long-winded about it.
Yeah, no. Good story. Some cool ninja parkour. Like Assassin's Creed needs to get back into the parkour in a big way. I feel like it's gotten very simple, which can be kind of nice. Like you just push a button and run in a direction and you automatically parkour.
Yeah.
But some of my most fun with Assassin's Creed was in 1 and 2 when I was like initiating chases with the guards just to like secure a perfect parkour run and get really, really good at it.
Yeah.
Um, and that would be a cool thing to see to come back, especially for the Shinobi character. And then like better or more interesting combat is what I feel like I need, especially if you're gonna have a samurai who hopefully they learn what they can from Ghost of Tsushima and games like crap, what was that? It was a FromSoft game about a samurai or a
Sekiro.
Ronin. Sekiro.
Yep.
Like, give me some really good like tight parry counter timing and some fights like that really ups the tension, and I will be so invested in this game. But if it's just sort of like press square until the thing dies, it's going to be kind of a bummer.
Yeah, I mean, in the last couple outside of Mirage, it's been very like ability focused. Like hold this button and press this button to do your super spin, and
Mhm.
it kind of feels like a MOBA,
Yeah, it does.
and like I just feel like you're losing the visceralness that you get from a Ghost of Tsushima style of combat or a God of War style of combat. Yeah. So I'm curious. This is the most curious I've been about Assassin's Creed in a while. So
Mhm.
I will credit them on that. But yeah, I need to see some gameplay. Definitely need to see some gameplay.
I've got a cool light scar right now.
Yeah, you do.
For those of you watching, those of you listening have no idea what this means,
Mm,
but I've got a cool light scar on my face right
yeah.
now. So
Find the
watch the
video
show.
version. Find the video
Yeah.
version on YouTube. All right.
Yeah. I feel like that was a solid conversation about Assassin's Creed Shadows. I feel like we hit all the major points.
Yeah. And
If you think we missed anything, comment below. Tell us what we missed.
Tell us what we miss. Complain about the characters or don't, because like why? Like it's not a big deal, guys. It's not a big
I'm
deal.
just every time that someone complains about Yasuke, I'm just gonna reach up and tap my sign like a bus driver that says, "Shut up, just shut up."
You know what I have also for the video the video members. I have this right here. This is a
Ooh,
special button you're probably seeing backwards, so which is good. So I don't have to put any restrictions on the video.
it spells Tislump backwards.
Yes, it does. So all right, we're gonna cut it there. We are at time, so thank you all for listening to the GGG podcast. If you enjoyed our podcast, listen all the way through, thank you so much. And we would also appreciate a like and subscribe over on our YouTube channel or on our audio versions of the podcast over on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts from. And we will see you next week. What are we talking about next week, Phil? What do you think we're going to talk about?
Let's see. Since my prediction was so on point this last week, I think we're going to talk about Todd Howard getting into a fist fight with Phil Spencer. I listen. I just feel it in the air. I feel it coming.
We'll be on site for that. I want to see that
fight. Todd Howard's going to take off his fancy jacket and. He always wears leather jackets for his things.
He does. It's the same or he just has a closet of those jackets. So very interesting.
He really wants to make that Indiana Jones game. That's what he's been waiting for.
Yes. All right. Peace out, everybody.
Peace.